Well, I'm going to go ahead and hop on the mic real quick and see if both of our presenters can do a quick audio check to make sure we're all set. So if Melinda, if you could go online real quick, and Ember as well.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm on, just so you know, I'm on my phone and I've got my iPad muted since I'm on the way to the Capitol. I'm trying to make it all work.
You're the ultimate multitasker, per usual. And Ember, if you could do a quick audio check as well.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can. So I'm going to go ahead and get started then just real quick. My name's Robin Kilgo, and I'm going to be kind of the tech person behind the scenes here. Just real quick, just so everyone knows, all attendees usually start out muted on our calls. So if you're not able to talk, that's why. If for some reason your microphone is on, I would ask that you go ahead and turn it off just so we don't have any background noise. There is a chat box or a question box down at the bottom. So if anyone has any comments or anything, feel free to throw information in there. I'll be monitoring it throughout the webinar, and this webinar is going to be recorded, so we should have it kind of held for posterity for all time. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and go through a couple slides, and I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic actually off to Melinda to do a quick introduction of what we're going to be covering today.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry. First of all, my internet was down in my office this morning, which is always a great way to start the day. And second of all, I've got to be at the Capitol in a little bit, so I'm trying to make it all work since we don't know when meetings are scheduled until the last minute. We scheduled this webinar way back, so it's kind of hard to work around. I'm so happy to have Ember Farber on the call today. She's the Director of Advocacy for AAM. I've known Ember for a long time. We've presented sessions together on advocacy, but mainly what this is just a way to talk about what to expect when you get to DC this weekend. And it's, it's nothing specific. It's just, I feel like there's times when we're all traveling to places and you feel like you don't really know what's going to go on or you don't know what to expect. So this was a way just to kind of give a little bit of an overview and kind of link people together from Florida. I know AAM's done a great job with the materials they've sent out in advance. And I know that they'll do a great job when we get there and get all of our marching orders. But I just felt like it was a great way to kind of get us together, and that way you don't feel like you're alone when you get there. And we're going to do the same type of thing for Tourism Day, which is in a few weeks. So it's just something we're trying to do to reach out to folks to make them feel welcome, to make them not feel anxious because they don't know what to expect. And it just seemed like the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to turn it over to Ember and let her go through some slides with you, and then I'll say a few things at the end, and then we'll take any kind of questions at the end also. But you can also type into the chat screen if you have a question, and Robin can respond or let us know that you've got a question. Thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you, Melinda, so much. Can you all hear me okay? I'm gonna hope yes. Yes, looks like Robin handed everything over to me. So really appreciate what all the work that you're doing, Melinda, and that introduction. As Melinda said, we've had the pleasure of working together for a long time. She's somebody I really admire both in the museum and advocacy field. She is a tireless advocate for culture and tourism and museums in Florida, and really an example to us all in that way, I think. And we're extremely grateful for FAM's partnership in Museums Advocacy Day. We'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. So just to let you know what's coming up next, so I'm going to say this. As Melinda mentioned, we also at AAM work very, very hard to pull together all of the information that you might possibly need to feel prepared for Museums Advocacy Day. And to that end, we had done a recorded program for all Museums Advocacy Day participants this year. We recorded that a week or two ago. So I have the information from that program. That's what these slides are, and you'll see throughout it now links actively, as did the version that you got in an email on Friday afternoon. Actively links to all of the updated advocate material. So that was for a whole program just dedicated to walking you through AAM information. So I'm not going to read to you every slide that we're about to see or get in too in depth with each item, but I did pick out a few highlights that I'm excited to share with you today. And as Robin and Melinda have mentioned, you're more than willing to take questions, any sort of questions. There's no stupid or silly questions when it comes to Advocacy Day. So feel free to drop those in the chat, and I know that they'll come to us. And just one bit of information by way of my background. I've been with the American Alliance of Museums since November of 2003, actually quite some time, and we've been doing this round of advocacy days since about this time, 2009. So we're going into our ninth advocacy day in the 2000s, and of course, as many of you know, it very much feels like there's never been a more unique or important year to be making the case for museums. But the history of Advocacy Day is just that we wanted to make sure that among all of the other cultural and education and scientific groups that we are part of and national partners of and participate in their events, that there was a day on the Hill dedicated to making museums front and center. Because as many of us have seen before, the hardest part of any journey is taking that first step. So if we do it together, it's that much easier. And of course, playing on the concept that if we're not speaking up for museums, nobody else will be making it their first priority. Just a quick mention to say, again, we are so extremely grateful for all of our supporters of Museums Advocacy Day, and you'll see that especially we have a very strong slate of partners from the state and regional associations. And I just want to take a moment here to say, not only do you see FAM front and center there, but this is really powerful, not just in terms of helping us fund and handle the logistics of the event, which Melinda participates in, and make sure that the issues that Florida museums care about are part of our overall agenda. But FAM being a supporter at this level also means that as we're taking our messages to the Hill and sharing materials with every congressional office, that FAM and Florida museums are front and center and part of that conversation. So it's a reminder to every office of the dedication and service that Florida museums provide to not just Florida residents, of course, but all of your visitors as well. So really powerful, and we're really grateful for that. We tend to talk a lot about why holding an advocacy day, and I think this year we are all extremely feel a bit of a moral imperative to, among all of the other issues of the day, make sure that we are taking a unified message to Capitol Hill, and of course doing our very best due diligence to ward off any threats to the programs that do support museums. One thing I always like to mention in a program like this, and it's a question we get a lot, is if you ever doubt it, know that you as a constituent are really key and play a unique and powerful role in this process. And that's that legislators don't know that they have constituents that value museums and funding for museums and support for museums, and also the breadth of services that museums provide in their communities, unless they hear it from you. And we're based in the DC area, and we make visits throughout the year and communicate with congressional staff throughout the year, and they appreciate that. They know that we're a source of good information for the field in aggregate, but nothing has an effect on these offices like hearing from you. So we know it's a certain amount of effort to make that time away from your institution and travel to Washington, D.C., but just know that it absolutely has an impact on the offices you visit, and it becomes the baseline for your relationship with them for the rest of the year. So really good return on investment in that way that you kind of couldn't replicate in any other way. Of course, there are some highlights to the program. Every year we work really hard with the input of folks like Melinda and other state and regional associations and repeat participants to create a program that is both valuable to first-time attendees and really works to make you feel as comfortable as you possibly can going into your congressional visits on Tuesday, and also is interesting and sophisticated and new enough information for all attendees and especially our repeat attendees. So we pulled out here some of the highlights of this year's program, and you'll hear from me in a moment. There's lots more information available on the website. This is just one snapshot. As many of you already know, hopefully, I'm sure already that we're scheduling your congressional visits for you. So you may have heard from our scheduling team with detailed follow-up questions about your visits. They work extremely hard to both leave you with a schedule that you feel comfortable with and meets any requests that you had, and matches you to the legislators who represent your home address, your work address, any other sites or institutions that you're connected to, whatever information you let us know in the registration process, and also works with us to help maximize our reach on the Hill. So that might be that some of you have been asked at some point if there's other areas you can cover, or if you want to join visits to additional legislators in a district nearby, and that's because we really want to maximize our impact on on Capitol Hill with congressional offices. And as you see on the slide here, if you have any questions about your visits at any time, you can email museums@advocacyday.com. They are dedicated to these visits in the month of February, and they're to answer your questions. They have wonderful relationships with the offices. And if you received the email on Friday, which hopefully you did, it had information and links and attachments where you can go to an online database and see your tentative schedule of visits so far. One important note here is that new this year, you will be emailed that full PDF of your itinerary of visits for Tuesday. And as you may remember from past years, that includes all the information you need to know about offices, which other advocates are making the visit, the office room number, office phone number, who you're meeting with in the office. We have heard increasingly that people are not looking for extra paper to carry around. So the scheduling team has this new innovation this year. So you'll get emailed that PDF itinerary later this week, and then you'll be emailed if there's any updates to the visits. So you'll get them right away that way. So this is a section of the program on our legislative priorities that my phenomenal colleague, Ben Kershaw, our Director of Government Relations and Public Policy, normally handles. And I will say this, and I mean it, I have not seen anybody ever do a better job of this kind of snapshot, how to prepare for a visit, what our issues are, than Ben. So hopefully if you have a moment and you're interested in learning more about that, you take a listen to the What to Know program that we circulated the link to in the email on Friday. You can hear directly from him about what our issues are, what they mean to museums, and how to prepare for your visits. I'll just note here that of course, the Institute of Museum and Library Services funding and reauthorization continues to be a priority this year. A reauthorization was introduced last year, but was not passed before the previous Congress ended. So that means that we do have to pick that up and push for that again this year. But we are in and having been introduced and supported throughout the year last year, we're in a good spot as advocates to pick that work up, but do have that work ahead of us. Of course, other key legislative priorities include funding for the National Endowment for the Arts and the Humanities, state-level funding for museums, and STEM and education funding for museums as well. And when you see here mentioned as concurrent briefings, that's because there's a period of time during the Monday programming 227 on Monday afternoon where you'll have a chance to choose and go to a much more in-depth breakout session on one of those three topics. And then, of course, in the rest of the advocate packet of materials is a series of additional legislative briefs. And as always, we update these year to year. So if something is not actively being considered in Congress, it may be a brief that you've seen in the past but isn't in the handbook items this year, and that's just a reflection of us putting our energy into legislation that's actually in play. What to expect from your Capitol Hill visits? As Melinda mentioned, this is an area where we're all always working really hard to help you have some sense of what to expect. We know that if you haven't done this before, it can be a little bit hard to picture, and I can tell you based on what we've heard so far this year that Capitol Hill will be a very busy place. Our Advocacy Day is one of the earliest advocacy days in the calendar year, traditionally, and still we've already heard from other associations and the scheduling team that similar to Museums Advocacy Day, there is a great, great interest in coming to Washington and making our case, and lots of advocacy days are seeing higher than usual participation. So the real takeaway here is there are some details on the slide which are worth taking a look at, but what I want to leave you with is some key reminders. One, to be flexible, to be ready to be tuned into sort of what Ben has called the energy of the Hill. It really will be thrumming on Tuesday the 28th, because we just know there's so many people excited to make the case for their organizations this year. Also worth keeping in mind that the evening of Tuesday, February 28th, has now been set as a first joint address to Congress. So that means that there should be a lot more staff and legislators on Capitol Hill all throughout the day, which is great for Museums Advocacy Day events. And also, I think that there'll be an added energy in the air throughout the day as everybody is looking ahead, thinking about that evening's event. And one reminder about Hill visits, it can be, we understand that some advocates feel a little strange about the whole process, because it can feel very much sometimes like putting a spotlight on yourself. And I want to be here to tell you that's what you're here to do. The offices that you're meeting with, you may in many cases be meeting with staff, and we like to remind you that that's a get in and of itself. Congressional staff are extremely dedicated, talented, educated people. They might look younger than you expect, but many of them have landed that position by virtue of a lot of study and work in advocacy or a given issue area or field, or they're interested in public office themselves. So they're really powerful advocates for us and museums within the office. So meeting with staff is a very valuable thing, and just know that everybody on the Hill is prepared for you to introduce yourselves, put a business card out on the table, make a case for museums, make a specific ask, like signing on to this year's appropriations letters, or being prepared to vote in support of funding for the agencies that support museums. And it's perfectly okay for you to take notes and ask follow-up questions. They very much expect these to be working meetings. So just know going into it that it's absolutely your place to handle yourself that way, and that's really what they're expecting of you. And one other final note here is just that your passion is really powerful here. So if that's part of the mix, don't feel a need to temper yourself. If you're excited about your institution and programs and what you've done with federal funds, that's a real get that you bring to the table in this mix. So they're expecting to see that and appreciate that as well when it comes across. Again, some more detailed information is put together by Ben, and a game plan of a Capitol Hill meeting. And I would encourage you, as you have time, to go back and click into these resources and do this, what we call quote-unquote homework, about getting to know your legislators and their role in Congress. It's a really powerful way to go into your Hill visits and your coordination with your fellow Florida advocates, having some idea of what your legislator is about, what their role in Congress already is, and makes you look like a very seasoned, credible advocate, and will help you build rapport with the office. And there's some good links here into some deeper information places you can look up additional information about your legislators. So really good information here, and I'm glad that you guys have it. Just a reminder, because it does come up every year. So we're about to get into a wealth of information that we make available to you as advocates. This is some of that issue and prep information that I mentioned earlier that's available on the website and other places. We'll get into that in a second. Just worth keeping in mind that we put together a streamlined version of that information in final form in a folder that's called the Leave Behind materials. And what happens is when you're on site for Museums Advocacy Day, you get a chance a couple of times throughout the day on Monday to sit down and coordinate with the other Florida advocates that you will be making visits with. If somebody else wants to see the same representative as you, and then when you all go to see your senators, you do that together, right? Offices don't want more than one meeting with Museums advocates on a given day. So you do that together. And the key with the Leave Behind packets is that you only need to leave one behind for each visit. So whether it's 2 of you or 10 of you making a visit, you leave one of those packets with the office, and we work really hard to hone in on these and gather just the right material and gather it up in such a way that it's just the amount of information the offices want. So that's why that works that way, and you'll get those on Tuesday when you're doing your state coordination. So you can look for those then, but we provide them and we'll have them ready for you. And then just as I mentioned, don't want to get into too much information overload talking to you this morning, but just know that we have worked extremely hard, especially in the last week or so, to get all of the updated detailed information that you could possibly need as an advocate up online. So up on our website in the Advocacy and Museums Advocacy Day sections is the program, the issues at a glance, and updated issue briefs for this year, FY17 appropriations letters. Actually, as it turns out, we're still working on finishing the FY 2017 budgeting process. So whichever letters you see, if they've been already started on the FY18 letters, but if you see FY17 and FY18 this year, it's because the FY17 appropriations process is still not complete. So we're still advocating for those funds. The legislative record, which is a tool that shows you how your legislators, your federal senators and representatives have voted on issues related to museums in the broader field. So extremely powerful tool that we're able to make available to our members. Updated museum facts and infographic, and then the web version of the Museums Advocacy Day mobile app, which is where you can see the attendee list and some other information. And then as you'll note, where it says coming soon, state by state snapshots of IMLS, NEA, and NEH funding, you may have noticed those went live on our website as well on Thursday. So there's lots of information about that all across the AAM website and on social media. And as we mentioned earlier, 2 different chances on Monday to coordinate as a Florida delegation. So you'll get to meet each other and share and tell about visits and how you want to handle your congressional visits over lunch and in the 4 p.m. session on Monday. Once again, we've made available a mobile app, which is different than the website where you can see your visits. That's a unique set of information, so keep going to that Constituent Voice website to check on your congressional visits, but the app includes all the rest of the information related to Museums Advocacy Day. And just want to make sure that you guys know about our updated publicity tools for this year. This is something where if you want to write an op-ed or press release about the museum's participation in Museums Advocacy Day and that your organization is representing Florida Museums at Museums Advocacy Day, you can use these tools. These publicity tools are also available too. If you're hearing from colleagues at your institution or nearby institutions that they're wondering how they can, they're not coming to DC, but they want to participate in making the case for museums, the publicity tools are a great place to start, and that's available on our website as well. And of course, each year we find that we are engaging in a more and more robust conversation about advocacy on social media, and social media continues to become more and more important tool for connecting with legislators, thanking them, letting them know that you're coming, seeing where they're at on issues, and hearing from you on issues. And we know that legislators, more and more offices are paying more and more attention to social media. So if you're at all interested or able to participate there, there's a couple of tips here on this slide. And then also in that publicity tools that we mentioned, there's a new section, there's a pullout with a 2-page information section just on social media and how you can use social media for Museums Advocacy Day. It's got pro tips and tricks. It's got links to our legislator directory where you can find the Twitter handles and Facebook pages for your legislators. It's got customized short links to specific tools like the state snapshots and other tools that you can share during Museums Advocacy Day. So hopefully you find that in the publicity tools and make good use of that. And we'll be sending one more email to participants before the live event, and we'll make sure to highlight that as well. And then just a little bit more information about some things to keep in mind using social media going into an event like this. And of note here is what you see in red highlight, that link to the Congressional Management Foundation, which exists primarily to help congressional offices run as well as they can, just released its newest report, Communicating with Congress, Social Congress, with analyzing data that they collected in 2015. It's the latest available data on the market that talks about the power of constituent advocacy and how legislators are using social media and how important it is to weigh in with legislators. So we're excited to provide you that link, and also that the man behind their work, Brad Fitch, will be presenting on Monday at Advocacy Day on how to be your best advocate and and fully participate in Advocacy Day. So we're looking forward to that as well. And then just a final and closing, wanted to reinforce this idea that we really have made everything that hopefully you should want or need to fully get prepared for and participate in Museums Advocacy Day available on our website. I've been hearing since we sent the email out last Friday afternoon from a lot of advocates in a lot of different states that folks are preparing their economic and educational impact statements and printing out the state snapshots for their reports for their states to have ready to add to their packets and leave with congressional offices. So any of that information that's specific to your institution, feel free to gather and make a handful of copies and bring with you when you come to Washington next week. So I know that's a lot of information. I'm here to answer questions about participating and how Advocacy Day works. As we mentioned earlier, the Museums Advocacy Day team is here to answer any of your detailed scheduling questions, and I would love to take any questions from anybody on the line or address anything that Melinda or Robin wants to talk any more about. So thank you guys so much for having me today.
Robin, did you see any messages come through?
Not yet, but guys, feel free. Any of the people who are listening in, please feel free to type in any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ember. That was amazing, as always. And I want to just reiterate a few things. Number one, wear comfortable shoes. You're going to walk a lot. A lot. I'm talking a lot. So be comfortable in your shoes. Make sure that if you have your own economic impact for your area or for your institution, that you bring copies of that with you. And I will have a copy for each of y'all of Florida statistics. And it will also tie really closely with tourism. Since we're in the battle of our life right now with Visit Florida, we've got some really great info graphs out there that we can share. So I'll have copies with me for that. Bring your business cards. Make sure you swap those. That's something that everybody always says, oh, I forgot my business cards. Don't forget your business cards. Because not only do you want to give them to your elected officials, but you want to share them with people that you meet at Advocacy Day. Something else I know Ember touched on is ask questions. Don't be scared to ask questions. There's never a stupid question. There's a lot of people get very intimidated doing advocacy. It's really not that big of a deal. But if you're nervous or if you've got a question, just ask it. And the nice thing about doing the groups is there's a group of us going together, so you're not by yourself. You're together, and you're not walking into an office right by yourself, even though one year I did have to do that, now that I think about it. But just ask questions, reach out. They've given us great opportunities for training that day and also to get together as a group from Florida. So I think it'll be very useful and helpful. I don't think there's anything else that I need to say at this point. And for those of you that are looking forward to your first time Advocacy Day, it's going to be a blast. I'm just telling you. It's fun. It's so empowering to go and walk the Hill and go into your members' offices and see where they live part of their lives, and they're excited because you're a constituent. So I think you'll have a great time. I think you'll learn a lot. I think it will make you a better advocate back at home, which as you all know, we need desperately right now. And I think that it'll just be a great few days. I'm looking forward to getting into D.C. on Sunday and getting ready to walk the hills and learn from everybody. So I don't think there was any other questions. And if you have any, though, you can certainly follow up with me by email or to Ember by email, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that we can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Melinda. You definitely hit the right high notes there, and it's going to be a powerful year, and you guys might be the most fun delegation. So we're looking forward to seeing you next week for sure. But there is a unique, I don't want to overuse that word, but there's a unique energy in Washington right now. There is our work at hand, and also very proud, I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier, that that in no small part thanks to your input and others, that the impact of museums on the cultural and tourism sector is part of the program this year as well. So couldn't have a better leader of your Florida delegation in Melinda. So thank you all so much. And the one other thing I was going to mention is just about that, what's going on the Hill. There, keep in mind too that these offices, it really is fascinating to see the offices of the people that represent you and see their staff and see how they've set them up. And also keep in mind that they're hearing from a lot of people who are really unhappy with them all the time, all day, every day. That's been on the rise for the last couple of years. So when you come in with this very positive message about what you do in the district and how you're serving constituents, as Melinda said, you are really extremely well received because you are often a bright spot in a day of very intense meetings. So know that you have the wind at your back as you go into these offices.
Okay, Robin, are we done?
It looks like we're done. I just took a look at the question box, and we had the one, Darcy actually was the one who said she was looking forward to it. So beyond that, I think we're good. And like Melinda said, if anyone has any questions or anything else, feel free to email either Ember or Melinda, and they will follow up with you. So thanks to
Great.
everyone, and thanks for
Thank you.
participating.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ember, for taking time out of your day to be on with us.
I'm very happy to. Thanks so much.
See everybody soon.
Travel safe.
Bye.